I never imagined I would find myself in this position, but here I am. My name is Mark, and I have been married to Rachel for 6 years. We had what I believed was a perfect relationship and shared interests, mutual respect, the whole package. Or, so I thought. Over the past few months, I started noticing subtle changes. Rachel was constantly attached to her phone and seemed distant during our conversations. I dismissed these signs as work, stress. However, as time passed, her behavior became increasingly concerning. Rachel used to be the first one home from work, always cooking dinner or planning activities for us. Lately, she had been coming home late, claiming she needed to help a colleague with projects. The late nights did not bother me initially. I wanted to be supportive, but after several weeks, a sense of unease settled in my stomach. It did not help that she would often leave her phone unattended, and I would glimpse flirtatious messages appearing on her screen. Each time I saw an unfamiliar name, nausea would sweep through me, but I suppressed my suspicions. I refused to become the jealous husband. Then one night, after she had left for another late meeting, I decided to sort through our neglected mail pile. While flipping through envelopes, I noticed one addressed to Rachel from someone I did not recognize. It was a handwritten letter, and my heart raced as I opened it. The words inside were unmistakable. I miss you so much. Cannot wait to see you again soon. Love, Jake. My blood ran cold. Jake. Who was Jake? Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The late nights, the attitude change, the secretiveness. I had been blind to the truth. I spent the entire night pacing our living room, emotions crashing over me in waves and betrayal, disbelief. I tried convincing myself it was a misunderstanding, but deep down, I knew the truth. Rachel was cheating on me. The next day, I confronted her. I was an emotional wreck, yet she came home with that same cheerful demeanor she wore like armor. It infuriated me. When I mentioned the letter, her face paled, and she stammered, "I do not know what you were talking about, Mark." Her easy lies were infuriating. I could see panic in her eyes. "Who is Jake?" I asked, keeping my voice steady despite trembling inside. She hesitated before excuses poured out. "Oh, he is just a friend from work. We were collaborating on a project. I did not want to bother you with the details." The lies flowed effortlessly from her lips. I could see her attempting to manipulate the situation, but I was no longer fooled. My heart raced with each word she spoke. I pressed harder, desperate for honesty, but she continued dancing around the truth. Everything felt surreal, like a twisted nightmare. I experienced an overwhelming mixture of anger and sadness. How could she do this to me? I thought we were equal partners. I wanted to shake her, make her understand how deeply she was hurting me. Instead, I stood there feeling like a fool, waiting for her to admit the truth. But admission never came. She turned defensive, calling me paranoid and claiming I was overreacting. She flipped the situation, making me seem like the unreasonable one. After that night, I spiraled downward. I was devastated, raging one moment and heartbroken the next. The betrayal felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I tried reasoning with her, hoping to salvage what remained of our marriage. But the more I tried, the deeper I sank into despair. Replaying the confrontation in my head, I knew I could not let her get away with this. I needed a plan. I needed to confront this situation head-on. I had to ensure all evidence was gathered before our next confrontation. It was time to show Rachel she could not hide behind lies anymore. She thought she was clever, but I refused to play the fool any longer. Living in a fog after that confrontation, each day dragged endlessly. I found myself fixated on Rachel's every move. I dug deeper, collecting evidence to confirm my worst fears. The more I discovered, the more determined I became to confront her with undeniable proof of her betrayal. I reached out to my friend Mike, who worked in I need your help with something personal, I confided, feeling foolish for asking, yet desperate for assistance. When I explained my situation, he was sympathetic but I can help clone her phone messages using spyware software. I will give it to you, install it on her phone, and give me a few days, he offered. Meanwhile, I started documenting everything suspicious about Rachel's behavior the late nights. Unexplained absences, strange messages. I noted times she came home smelling of unfamiliar cologne. This was not my imagination. I had evidence she was lying to my face. In the days that followed, I became a ghost in my own home. I avoided our usual conversations, choosing instead to observe her carefully. She would come home, pretending everything was normal, cooking dinner and chatting about her day. Watching her play, the loving wife, was unbearable. The closer we were physically, the more suffocated I felt. How could she betray me so casually? When Mike finally delivered Rachel's text message logs, my heart pounded as I examined them. Dozens of conversations with Jake filled with flirtatious exchanges and meeting plans. My stomach twisted reading their words. "I cannot stop thinking about you. Cannot wait to feel your body next to mine." Each message pierced my heart like a dagger. This was not just a fling, it was a full emotional affair. My blood boiled with the revelation. Armed with this evidence, I felt simultaneously empowered and filled with dread. I was ready for another confrontation, but this time, I would not allow her to manipulate the situation. I studied her patterns, waiting for the perfect moment to confront her. I wanted her to feel the weight of her own deception. Days later, I set my plan in motion. I ensured she would be home early from work by requesting she'll join me for dinner. I even prepared her favorite meal to calm my nerves. I wanted her to feel secure, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. As we sat at the dinner table, I engaged in casual conversation while tension simmered beneath the surface. Looking directly into her eyes, I said, "I have been thinking about trust lately." I've watched for any guilt in her expression, but she maintained her innocent facade. "Trust? What do you mean?" she asked nonchalantly. "Trust is the foundation of any relationship," I continued, leaning back and taking a deep breath. "Without it, everything crumbles. And when trust breaks, it leaves permanent scars." I removed the printout of her messages and slid it across the table. "What is this, Rachel? Care to explain?" Her eyes widened as she examined the paper. The color drained from her face. "What is this? Where did you get this?" She sputtered, her confidence evaporating. "Mike helped me. You know, my tech-savvy friend. He is quite skilled with phones," I replied steadily, relishing the moment. "So, who is Jake? How long has this been happening?" Her facade collapsed. She stammered, searching for words, but only produced half-hearted excuses and frantic denials. "It is not what you think. I swear, he is just a friend," she cried, her voice cracking under pressure. "Then why do your messages sound so intimate? Why does he miss you? Why were you discussing physical contact?" I pressed, feeling heat rise within me. I was finally standing up for myself. Rachel's excuses escalated into frantic claims of misunderstanding. "Mark, you are being irrational. This is strictly professional. It means nothing." The sight of her once, my partner, now desperately clinging to, lies fueled my anger. I slammed my hands on the table, the sound echoing through the silence. "You think I am being irrational? You are the one betraying our marriage. You have been lying to me every single day." Her eyes darted around the room, panic evident in her expression. I could see reality sinking in as she finally grasped the extent of my knowledge. It was a moment of clarity for both of us, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. During this confrontation, I experienced a mixture of anger, sadness, and empowerment. I refused to be a victim anymore. I would not be the husband who allowed his wife to disrespect him. As tension hung between us, I realized I faced a crucial decision. I could either attempt to salvage whatever remained of our marriage or take control of my life and determine my own future. The choice seemed monumental, and I knew the aftermath would be difficult. But one thing was crystal clear. I was prepared to fight for my dignity, regardless of the cost. The dining room air grew thick with tension. Rachel's face contorted with anger and disbelief as her denial faded. She searched desperately for ways to manipulate the situation to her advantage. "This is absurd. Mark, you are overreacting," she shouted, trying to regain control. But I could see her facade cracking beneath the surface. My heart raced with a combination of anger and adrenaline. I was finally confronting the betrayal directly. "Absurd? You want to discuss absurdity? How about lying to your husband and sleeping with another man?" I responded, my voice steady, despite the emotions bubbling underneath. "You have been betraying everything we built together." I saw the fight in her eyes, but I refused to back down. I wanted her to feel the weight of her choices, to understand the gravity of her actions. Her defenses crumbled further. "Mark, please. I am sorry. It was a mistake. I never meant for this to happen," she pleaded, but her words sounded hollow, infuriating me more. How could she treat this like a minor incident in our lives? A mistake. This was not just a mistake, Raisha. You have been seeing him for months. How do you think that makes me feel? I could feel the hurt rising in my chest like bile. The betrayal extended beyond the physical act. It was about the emotional connection she had formed with someone else. That cut deep. "I was lonely," she finally admitted, tears streaming down her face. "You were always working late, and I did not think it would go this far." Now she was playing the victim, but I refused to accept it. "Lonely? That is your excuse. I was working hard to provide for us, Rachel. I thought you understood that." I felt anger bubbling within me, threatening to explode. "You could have talked to me, but instead you chose to cheat." Heavy silence filled the room as the reality of her actions settled between us. I observed her face, noting flickers of guilt and regret, but also anger. She tried redirecting toward me. "You do not get to turn this around on me. Mark," she shouted, voice rising again, "you are the one who made me feel neglected." It was a low blow that stung deeply. I had been working hard perhaps too hard, but I never imagined it would lead to this. Neglected? You chose to go behind my back instead of discussing your feelings with me. My body shook with emotion, hurt and betrayal, mixing with anger, creating an unbearable cocktail of pain. "Maybe if you were more present, I would not have needed to look elsewhere," she retorted, her voice growing louder. Each word felt like a physical blow. I was losing control and realized I needed to step back momentarily. Taking a deep breath, I tried regaining composure. "I did not come here to argue, Rachel. I came to confront you about the truth. We cannot move forward until you acknowledge what you have done." She paused, her expression softening briefly as she processed the weight of our situation. But then, anger returned. What do you want, Mark? Do you want me to say I am sorry? Do you want me to beg for forgiveness? Yes. I want you to accept responsibility for your actions. I want you to realize how deeply you have hurt me. I yelled back, my frustration boiling over. I did not mean to hurt you, she cried, her voice breaking again. I just got caught up in everything. It was never supposed to become serious. That was when I realized I needed to make a choice. I felt tears welling in my eyes but blinked them away, refusing to show further weakness. You need to understand, this is not just about you. This concerns us, our marriage, and the life we built together. I need to know if you are willing to fight for this relationship, or if you prefer abandoning it for your affair. The weight of my words hung in the air, and I could see her mind racing. She appeared conflicted, torn between guilt and fear of losing me. I do not know, Mark, she whispered, barely audible. Then I think you need to figure it out. I refuse to be a backup plan. Rachel, you must choose. Either cut ties with Jake and commit to working on our relationship, or I am finished. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see her mind working. I wanted her to grasp the magnitude of the situation. I would not allow her to slide back into our routine as if nothing had happened. There needed to be consequences for her actions. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I will think about it. Thinking is insufficient. I need to know you are serious about this. I stated firmly. If you want a future with me, you must cut him off completely. No more texting, no more excuses. I need to see you are willing to fight for us. Rachel looked defeated, and for the first time, I glimpsed understanding in her eyes. I will, she whispered, though uncertainty lingered in her voice. I took a deep breath, feeling the heaviness in the room begin to lift. But I knew this was merely the beginning. I had established boundaries, but the battle was far from over. The emotional toll of the confrontation was just beginning to register, and I could feel the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. Walking away from the table, I experienced mixed emotions of hope and dread. I had taken a stand, but I also recognized that the road ahead would be difficult. Rachel had considerable soul-searching to do, as did I. I needed to determine what I truly wanted for my future, and whether I was willing to invest the effort necessary to rebuild our shattered trust. The battle was far from over, but I felt a sense of clarity. I refused to be a victim any longer. I was taking control of my life, and whatever happened next would define both of us. But what I did not know then was that fate had a strange twist in store, one that would challenge everything I thought I knew about trust, betrayal, and forgiveness. The days following my confrontation with Rachel were an emotional whirlwind. I had laid my cards on the table, and now it was her decision whether she wanted to fight for our marriage. I experienced a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. On one hand, I felt proud for standing my ground and demanding honesty. On the other, I was terrified of what her ultimate decision might be. Rachel remained quiet throughout the following week. I could sense the tension permeating our home, making the atmosphere almost unbearable. I wondered if she was genuinely contemplating her choices or merely stalling for time. Each day, I anxiously checked my phone for messages from Mike, hoping he would provide new insights about Rachel's activities. I needed to know if she was serious about severing ties with Jake. One evening, after another exhausting day at work, I returned home to find Rachel sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the television. She appeared lost in thought, and the sight made my heart ache. I could tell she had been crying. As I approached, I felt conflicting emotions of compassion and lingering anger. "Hello," I said softly, attempting to gauge her mood. "Hello," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I noticed the fatigue etched across her face, and it broke my heart. I wanted to comfort her, yet I still felt the sting of betrayal. "I've been thinking about everything," she said, finally meeting my gaze. "About Jake, about us." My stomach twisted at the mention of his name. "And?" I asked, bracing myself for her answer. "I texted him," she admitted, looking down at her hands. "I told him it was over." Relief washed over me, quickly, followed by skepticism. "How do I know you are serious about this?" "I need more than just words, Rachel. I need proof." She nodded, eyes shining with unshed tears. "I know. I am going to block him, and I will show you. I promise. I never wanted to hurt you. I got lost." I wanted to believe her, but the scars of betrayal ran deep, and trust was not something easily rebuilt. "I appreciate you saying that, but I need time to process everything. I cannot rush into anything without seeing real change." "I understand," she replied, voice trembling. "I will do whatever it takes to fix this. I love you, Mark." Hearing those words felt simultaneously comforting and unsettling. I wanted to believe her, but part of me remained wounded. As days passed, I maintained my distance, uncertain how to navigate this new terrain. I needed to protect my heart while avoiding complete emotional shutdown. The following week, Rachel fulfilled her promise. She blocked Jake and deleted all their messages while I watched. A flicker of hope ignited within me. but I recognized that actions speak louder than words. I needed to observe her behavior, not just listen to her claims. One Friday night, after an exhausting week, I came home ready to relax. Rachel had planned a surprise dinner, and I could see the effort she had invested. Candles were lit, and the table was beautifully arranged. For a moment, I forgot about the tension between us and allowed myself to enjoy the evening. As we ate, I noticed how different she seemed, more engaged and attentive, laughing at jokes and reminiscing about happier times. "Remember our trip to the beach?" she asked, a smile slowly emerging. "You got sunburned, and we spent the entire day in the shade." "Yes, and you laughed at me the whole time," I replied, chuckling at the memory. It felt good to share those moments, and briefly, I could almost believe everything would improve. But as dinner concluded and we moved to the couch, the heaviness returned. I looked at her, searching for clarity. "Are you truly committed to making this work?" I asked steadily, my voice carrying the weight of my fears. "Yes, absolutely." She reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly. "I know I made terrible mistakes that I cannot change, but I want to make things right. I will do anything to prove it to you." Her sincerity was evident, but doubt lingered in my mind. "It will take time, Rachel. I need to see consistent effort. I cannot risk being hurt again. I promise I will show you," she said earnestly. "We can attend counseling, discuss everything thoroughly. Whatever you need, counseling might be helpful," I replied cautiously. I did not want to rush into anything that might lead us back to distrust, but I also knew we needed to address the issues that brought us to this point. In the following weeks, we began attending counseling sessions together. It was difficult and sometimes painful, but I could see Rachel genuinely trying to understand her actions and their impact on me. The therapist guided us through our emotions, encouraging open communication. Gradually, we started finding common ground. Rachel opened up about her feelings of loneliness and inadequacy, while I expressed my frustrations about feeling unappreciated. It was raw and emotional, but it seemed we were finally making progress. However, the path to healing had numerous obstacles. There were moments when insecurity would overtake me, making me wonder if she was truly committed or might revert to her previous behavior. I often found myself staring at my phone, waiting for Mike to confirm my fears. Then one day, while scrolling through social media, I discovered a post that made my heart sink. A photograph showed Rachel smiling and laughing with friends, including Jake. The caption read, "So glad to see old friends. Cannot wait for more fun times." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. My initial impulse was to scream and lash out, but instead, I felt hollow. I could not believe it. After everything we had endured, she was still seeing him. My heart raced as I took deep breaths to calm the storm brewing inside. When Rachel returned that evening, I confronted her immediately. "You claimed you cut ties with Jake, but I just saw a picture of you together on social media. What is happening?" "Rachel." The expression on her face revealed everything. "I can explain," she stammered, but I was not receptive to excuses. "Explain what? That you lied to me again?" I felt anger resurface, and the pain of betrayal returned in waves. "After everything we have been through, you are still spending time with him." "I did not plan it. It was a group gathering. I did not know he would be there," she protested, her voice rising defensively. "That does not matter. Rachel, you should have known better. This is exactly why I have trust issues with you." She appeared defeated, and momentarily I felt a flicker of sympathy, but the anger was too fresh and raw. "I thought we were moving forward. I thought you understood how serious this situation is," I continued, my voice shaken with emotion. "I am trying. I truly am," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "I did not want to hurt you. I just wanted to enjoy myself like we used to." But I remained firm. "This is not just about having fun anymore, Rachel. This is about trust, and you keep destroying it." As the evening progressed, I could not shake the feeling that we were trapped in a cycle of pain and betrayal. I had fought desperately to save our marriage, but it felt like she was still playing games. I needed clarity and resolution, and it was time to confront the reality of our situation. That night, after our confrontation, I paced the living room while Rachel retreated to our bedroom. The silence was deafening. I felt torn between anger and profound sadness. I had fought so hard to rebuild our relationship, but we kept encountering obstacles. I could not forget Rachel's expression when I confronted her about the photograph. The mixture of guilt and defiance etched on her face infuriated me. Had she really believed she could socialize with Jake without consequences after everything that had transpired? I grabbed my phone and messaged Mike, arranging to meet at a local bar. I needed a drink and someone to listen. When I arrived, Mike was already waiting. He immediately sensed my distress. "What happened, man? You look terrible." I sighed heavily, running fingers through my hair. "It is Rachel. I thought we were making progress, but she lied again. I saw her with Jake at an event. She told me she had ended contact, but clearly that was untrue." Mike frowned, sipping his beer. "That is rough. Have you discussed it with her?" "Of course." I confronted her, but all I received were excuses. "I no longer know what to believe," I said, leaning back in my chair, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. We seem trapped in this cycle of betrayal and distrust, and I am exhausted. Have you considered prioritizing yourself? He suggested. You cannot continue like this. You deserve happiness. I know, but I do not want to abandon our marriage without trying everything possible. I love her and want to believe she can change. Love is important, but it should not cost you yourself. You need to evaluate what this relationship is doing to you. If she is not committed to making amends, perhaps it is time to move on. Mike's words resonated deeply. I contemplated what he was saying while finishing my drink. I felt balance between my love for Rachel and the need for self-protection. I simply do not want future regrets. What if I end things and she genuinely wants to change? You can always reconsider later, but you cannot allow her to continue hurting you, he said earnestly. You deserve someone fully committed, especially after your experiences. His advice lingered in my mind as I considered the possibilities. I had been so focused on saving our marriage that I had neglected to consider my own desires. Then something unexpected happened. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. Mark, you do not know me, but I need to speak with you about Rachel and Jake. There is something important you should know. Can we meet tomorrow? I stared at the message, feeling a chill run down my spine. Who was this person? What did they know about Rachel and Jake that I did not? Everything okay? Mike asked, noticing my expression. I am not sure, I replied, showing him the message. What do you think? Mike studied it carefully. Could be nothing, could be something. Only one way to find out. The next day, I met the mysterious texter at a quiet cafe downtown. A woman in her mid-30s approached my table. Mark, I am Sarah, Jake's wife. My heart skipped a beat. Jake's wife. I did not know he was married. She smiled sadly. Most people do not. He is very careful about keeping his personal life separate from his shady love life activities. As we talked, Sarah revealed something that turned my world upside down. Jake was not just any colleague. He was a professional con artist who targeted vulnerable married women. He would seduce them, manipulate them into sharing personal information, and eventually extort money from them. He has done this before, multiple times. Sarah explained, showing me files she had collected. I have been tracking his activities for months, building a case against him. Your wife is his latest victim. I felt lightheaded as I examined the evidence. Photos, bank statements, text messages, all proving Jake's elaborate scheme. Does Rachel know about this? Sarah shook her head. I do not think so. His victims usually believe they are in a genuine relationship. The manipulation is incredibly sophisticated. I left the meeting with my mind reeling. Rachel had not just been unfaithful, she had been victimized. The anger I had been harboring began transforming into something else. Concern and a desire to protect her. When I returned home, Rachel was sitting in the kitchen, looking defeated. She had been crying again. We need to talk, I said, placing Sarah's files on the table. Mark, please. Not another fight. I cannot take it anymore, she pleaded. This is not about fighting. This is about Jake and what he has really been doing. As I explained everything Sarah had told me, Rachel's expression changed from confusion to horror to profound shame. He asked me for money last month, she whispered. Said it was for an investment opportunity. I was going to tell you, but I was scared. How much? I asked, my stomach churning. $5,000 from my personal savings. He promised it would double within weeks. She covered her face with her hands. I am such a fool. The revelation changed everything. While Rachel's actions had still hurt me deeply, understanding the manipulation she had experienced shifted my perspective. She had not just betrayed me, she had been exploited by a predator skilled at identifying vulnerabilities. In the weeks that followed, we worked with Sarah to build a case against Jake. Several other victims came forward, each sharing similar stories. The police became involved, and Jake was eventually arrested on multiple charges of fraud and extortion. Throughout this ordeal, Rachel and I continued counseling, but now with a different focus. We addressed not only the betrayal, but also the healing process for someone who had been manipulated and taken advantage of. Rachel had to come to terms with both her choices and her victimization, a complex emotional journey. One evening, 6 months after Jake's arrest, Rachel and I sat on our porch swing, watching the sunset. The air between us felt different, not completely healed, but no longer toxic with suspicion and anger. I will never be able to fully express how sorry I am, Rachel said softly. Not just for the affair, but for not trusting you enough to talk about my feelings before things went so wrong. I took her hand, feeling the familiar warmth. We both made mistakes. I was so focused on providing financially that I forgot to be present emotionally. It does not excuse what happened, but I understand my part in it now. Do you think we can ever truly move past this? She asked, vulnerability clear in her voice. I thought carefully before answering. I believe we already are, not by forgetting, but by using what happened to build something stronger, something more honest. The journey toward healing was not linear. There were still days when doubt crept in, when memories of betrayal surfaced unexpectedly. But there were also moments of profound connection, deeper than anything we had experienced before the affair. Through this painful experience, I learned that relationships are infinitely complex. People make terrible mistakes, sometimes because of their own flaws and sometimes because they fall prey to those who exploit those flaws. Real forgiveness is not about erasing the past, but about choosing to build a future that acknowledges it. As for Rachel and me, we eventually renewed our vows on our 8th anniversary as the same couple. We had been but as two people who had walked through fire together and emerged with a deeper understanding of human frailty, resilience, and the true meaning of commitment. The trust that was shattered has been rebuilt not with the same materials, but with stronger ones. Honesty, vulnerability, and the wisdom that comes only from having your heart broken and choosing to love again anyway. And sometimes, when I think back to that fateful day when I found Jake's letter, I realize that while betrayal nearly destroyed us, it also forced us to confront the weaknesses in our marriage that we had both been ignoring. In that strange way that life sometimes works, our greatest crisis became our saving grace. The twist of fate discovering Jake's true nature did not erase the pain or magically fix our problems, but it did provide context that allowed forgiveness to take root where only bitterness might have grown. And in the end, that made all the difference.